We've all been there, right? You're on a project and things start to slip. Deadlines get missed, the budget starts to balloon. It's a super common and super frustrating experience. But what if you had a map, a clear, logical guide to get you from the very start to the finish line, helping you sidestep all those common problems? Well, guess what? Today, we're going to build that exact map.
So let's just put a number on this problem. According to our sources, a pretty shocking 40% of all projects are delivered late. That's almost half of them failing to hit one of their most basic goals.
And yeah, it gets even better. A full 50% of projects go over budget. So when you put those two stats together, you get this picture of projects that are constantly just struggling to stay afloat. The big question is, how do we make sure our project isn't one of them? How do we stay on time and on budget?
Well, the answer is pretty simple, actually. We have to stop guessing. We have to move away from just hoping for the best and start using a real structured way to plan. Because just crossing your fingers, that's not a strategy. It's a recipe for becoming one of those statistics.
This quote just nails it. Every single project is full of risks and things you just can't predict. And if you don't have a plan, if you don't have that map, you're basically trying to navigate a minefield with a blindfold on. A good plan doesn't mean risks disappear, but it means you can see them coming and you can deal with them.
So how do we make this map? We use something called a project network diagram. It's really just a picture of your whole project showing how every single task is connected. And today we're going to focus on the modern industry standard way to do this, the activity on node method, or as everyone calls it, AON.
Now, before we really get into AON, it helps to know where it came from. The old way was called activity on arrow, or AOA. It was clunky, it was limited, and you had to create these weird dummy activities just to make the logic work. AON, on the other hand, is so much more flexible and honestly, it just makes more sense. It's built for how projects actually work today, and it's the language that all the big software, like Microsoft Project, uses. Okay, time to get our hands dirty. Let's actually build one of these AON diagrams together. We're going to go step by step and turn a boring old list of tasks into a really powerful tool that will help us manage our project.
So this box right here, the node, this is the basic building block of our entire map. Every box is one task. And inside, we track all the important info, the earliest it can start and finish, the latest it can start and finish, and so on. And all of that lets us figure out the total float, or TF. And trust me, that is the secret sauce.
The first calculations we do are super simple, but they're incredibly important. To find out the earliest a task can possibly finish, you just take its earliest start time and add how long the task takes. That's it. It's the very first step in mapping out our timeline.
Now let's talk about that total float. This is your wiggle room. It's the amount of time a task can be delayed before it actually starts messing with your project's final deadline. And the math is simple. Just subtract the early finish from the late finish. If that number is 0, you have no wiggle room at all.
But you might be thinking, where do we even get the duration for each task? I mean, a lot of the time we're just estimating. Well, the PERT method helps us make a really smart weighted guess. You come up with an optimistic time, a pessimistic time, and a most likely time, plug them into this formula, and it gives you a much more realistic duration to work with. All right, enough theory. The absolute best way to see how powerful an AON diagram is to just build one. So let's take a sample project and turn its data into a real working project map. Here it is. This is basically our project's DNA. It's just a list of all the activities from A to L, how long they take, and, this is the important part, what they depend on. So you can see right there, activity D can't even start until one day after activity B is totally done. This table has all the rules we need to build our map. And here's what that data looks like when you lay it out. It's kind of the skeleton of our project map. To really bring it to life, we have to do what's called a forward pass. We're going to work from left to right and figure out the earliest possible start and finish time for every single task. So, as we do this forward pass, we're filling in the top parts of all those boxes. Now there's one key rule here. If a task has multiple things that have to happen before it, it can only start after the last one is finished. So you always take the largest number. This is what sets up our earliest possible project timeline. So after we run through that whole process, we get our first big payoff. The very last number in that final end box tells us the absolute minimum time it will take to get this whole thing done. For our example, that's 36 days. But we're not done yet. Next up is the backward pass. We start at our finish line, 36 days, and work our way backwards to the start. This tells us the absolute latest each task can finish without blowing our deadline. And this time, the rule is flipped. You always take the smallest number from the tasks that come after. Okay,
With our diagram all filled out, we have finally arrived at the big moment. This is why we did all that work. We can now use this completed map to find the single most important sequence of tasks in the entire project. We can find the critical path.
And here's the secret. The critical path is simply the sequence of tasks where that wiggle room, our total float, is 0, zip, nothing. You can see it highlighted right here. For our project, that path is A, then E, then F, then J. These tasks have absolutely no flexibility. They are the rigid backbone of our entire schedule.
And that is exactly why we call it critical. If activity E is late by just 1 day, it's not just activity E that's late. The entire project will finish 1 day late. As a project manager, these are the tasks you have to watch like a hawk.
So let's just zoom out for a second and think about why this whole AIGON method has become the undisputed champ in the world of project management. This isn't just some boring academic exercise. It's a seriously practical and powerful tool. And this slide really says it all. AON focuses on the actual work being done. It can handle all kinds of complex relationships between tasks, and you don't need any of those confusing dummy activities from the old days. But maybe most importantly, this is the method that nearly all professional project management software is built on. It is truly the language of modern planning. So, there you have it. We've gone from a confusing jumble of tasks to a clear, predictive map that shows us not only how long our project will take, but also where its biggest risks are. We've unlocked the power to plan with real confidence. So the only question left is, what goal, what big idea, what project are you going to map out first?